and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Now, Daniel, you got a story for the people. What is going on?
Yeah, so this is kind of touching on something that Kit did yesterday. I just thought it was such a transformative event to me and how I look at it that I thought I wanted to give it a second take. And so I wanted to cover again the Washington Post. And the Washington Post, in my mind, is in the process of eating itself alive.
Delicious.
And I think what is happening in the context, at least, which I'm seeing it through, this is a bit of an opinion. I'm going over what's happened, but I'm also kind of interjecting my points. I guess we're commentators. That's what we do. But I just wanted to say that ahead of time. I think this is a telling moment, a telling reaction that we're watching and going through. So a lot of this I'm getting from the New York Post article on the subject, but I'm also reading through my own. So I'm not going to be reading verbatim the article at all. I'm sort of going to be going through a timeline, which is, to me, one of the most helpful ways to understand a situation. So first, let's scroll in the article to the tweet that was retweeted in the first place. I think we'll start right there after we get some morning report. Okay, let's see. There it is, right there.
Which is before we start, this is the dumbest joke ever. Jerry and I both agree with this. Is the dumbest
it's
thing.
It's a stupid joke.
It's so stupid.
It's not the best thing to say.
No.
But again, if we want everyone to be equal, everyone has to be able to take really stupid jokes that are antagonistic even in some. So start of this is that David, the person in question, David Weigel, retweets this. This is the spark that leads to what is currently an implosion in Washington Post and outwardly. And I'll go to like this. There's a societal aspect to this.
All right, let's hear it.
So just in terms of just going over the timeline, he does that retweet. And I think everyone agrees at this point, or most of the people agree that I think have had their heads on straight, that like he's not agreeing with this. He's just, it's kind of what we're doing. It's like, stupid, what person, that sort of response. So Felicia calls him out, and I'm not sure how much you went into yours yesterday about her and her background. It's very fascinating.
We talk mostly about David, but please,
go
ahead.
Yeah. So I just it's very interesting additional end to this. So she calls him out privately, publicly, goes within the Washington Post to call him out, goes outside of it to put him on blast. Washington Post then calls out the tweet. After they call out the tweet, David apologizes, which he really shouldn't have had to. It's like,
He didn't have to apologize. I think it's stupid apology.
But then this is where we get started with trench warfare. And for those of you that don't know, I define trench warfare in this term very specifically. Trench warfare is when, much like trench warfare, you have to push a huge amount of bodies forward that get hit, damaged, and die so that you can make an insignificant increase in gain. That's what I call trench warfare, and it's done on both sides. It's a meaningless slaughter that doesn't accomplish anything except making people in war dead and in real life bitter. So, and then she launches this giant cancel culture attack against David. Now, here's where I think this gets into bigger context. I think this is the aftermath of the energy of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case.
Okay.
Because then it's more literal once I get down through it. But this, to me, is the energy. It feels like the energy of the people who are really upset that Amber lost. That's what I'm getting from this. That's how I am reading this. That's what the energy feels like, because it was so potent and powerful from so many weird places all at once that I don't think would have happened otherwise. I don't think the story would have existed. I think, and in fact, most of the people making this story possible are piggybacking onto the remnants of that scattered army.
Wow.
So, Washington Post, after basically Felicia is now doing everything she can to attack, get fired, one of her colleagues for retweeting a stupid joke.
A really dumb one.
And again, we're not even agreeing with it. It's just like, every group has to accept that they can have jokes made about them. That's just, if you don't accept that, you don't believe in equality by definition. So anyway, so the Washington Post sees that they have caused a large fire, and they try to mend it by asking everyone to deal with this internally and not publicly. And that, of course, makes this way worse for the Washington Post because each side thinks that they're being ignored. Felicia says that this has the Washington Post saying, "Hey guys, let's tamper this down," actually caused the worst damage, which is interesting. and that she is now being attacked voraciously somehow because of that statement, and that the Washington Post is actually at fault. And then further that anyone that is not 100% agreeing with her, or maybe another way of putting it, that everyone that is not defending, everyone that is defending or not attacking David is actually the worst kind of human being imaginable. And then the Washington Post staff start coming up, because I'm sure the Washington Post isn't run well. That's kind of what we do reporting on. And they're like, oh, everything's racist and sexist in here. Mm-hmm. And so then right after that happens, then David, being now the scapegoat, gets suspended for a month without pay.
Again, unfair. I'm just saying, look, I don't like David Weigel. I don't.
No, it's like it's just a case study in watching how this works out.
And it's stupid.
And then so more trench warfare is coming. And what's interesting now is the Washington Post is now split if people are on one side or the other on this. And the audience of the Washington Post has also been split. Now, I think that one thing that's really important to think about with this is 6 months ago, this would have never happened this way. If this had blown up the exact same way for any other reason, if it happened the same way, I think we would have had almost 100% backing her. But that's what we've seen. That's what we've seen in all of these mainstream outlets. What have they been doing when these things happen? They always would go to someone that's talking like that and immediately back her 100%, 120% so they don't have the appearance of being sexist. And so what we saw in this case is that didn't happen.
Yeah, okay.
And so I think some people were saying that Johnny Depp Amber Heard was actually the breaking moment of the current concept of Me Too, not the ideal. The ideal, I think we can all agree, the ideal of Me Too that it first started as was very powerful. The idea that women everywhere when they're being sexually harassed should have a place to go, whether they're a high-end law firm or a middle manager or an employee.
Yeah.
Which, of course, never materialized. It ended up just being for very wealthy women, which is not the ideal. But again, this person's a wealthy woman. And so they're now fighting within themselves over this issue. Mm. That is new. I would have never expected that to happen. I would actually ask the audience, do you think that distinction I'm making is reasonable, or am I just making too much of it? If you agree with me, 1. If you don't, 2.
Democracy, put the hammer.
But I think that that's important to the entire idea of where the movement is, because the Washington Post is sort of the bastion of places where this happens, where we don't pay our people, we don't pay a lot of the people well, we don't do this, we don't do that. By the way, they're always attacking progressives, so it's not everyone's equal. I mean, if you're a woman and a progressive, that's a different story than if you're a woman and an elite, that sort of thing. But here in this case, David was not immediately let go, and he wasn't let go. He was suspended without pay, which is very different than what we usually see. And I think also people saw this happen from the outside and went, yeah, he did something stupid. I don't think it's professional, but what is this response?
Thank you for because. Oh, wait, sorry.
Then the other thing that is, I think, a very interesting caveat. Felicia just had a lawsuit against the Washington Post dismissed that she was trying to say that they're a sexist organization, and her rationale, from what I read, and I might not have this fully nixed at the moment. But her rationale was she went to China and then came back, and then she wanted to cover and write about abuse cases, and they wouldn't let her, and they put her on another assignment. And that she was traumatized for 2 years because of that change. And then she sued them for it. And she still has a job. And now now here's the biggest kicker. When that whole incident happened, I think it was like 2 years ago, when that whole incident happened in the first place, and she was suspended also for what she said publicly. Also, it turns out she's lying a lot in her articles. That's a whole separate thing I didn't even have time to look up.
That's another person too.
That's another person as well. Yeah. And that's an issue within the Washington Post as well. So I think that's interesting. It's like, again, the rules for thee, but not for me. So when she sued the Washington Post, that got dismissed very recently. And then after that got dismissed, all of a sudden, him putting that thing is the most disrespectful thing and represents how terrible the Washington Post is in all possible respects. And So right, the biggest kicker in all this is back when that happened about 2 years ago, there were a number of staff that wrote a petition when she got suspended, defending her and saying that she should have not been suspended for that speech. Guess who was one of the people who signed that petition?
Wait. Hold on. I think his first name starts as a D, last name starts with a W. But hold on. Want to see acting 101? Get the camera on me for a second. Well, gee, Daniel, can you tell the audience who this unknown person that might surprise us, who it might be? I'm shocked. Daniel, who could it be?
It's the very same person she is attacking at this moment, David Weigel. So David Weigel, years ago, when she was actually out of pocket, and was getting suspended, said, I think this woman should be defended for her actions and not taken. But when he retweets a joke, he must be fired. And so this is my point. In most other times, just months ago, this would have turned out differently.
I'm sorry.
The amount of people discussing it, it would have been us, it would have been a few other people, but it wouldn't be so widespread. But now all of a sudden, people are like, Alicia, you sound like you're full of shit. I smell shit.
I smell an amber turd.
Yeah. But what's happening is there's this new energy. The energy is what happened. I think this shows that the Johnny Depp verdict has changed American culture on viewing things. Because you look at like US media, still, like you watch all the talk shows, the places where some of the most abuse in America happens, American newsrooms on television, are the places that still to this day are like, I don't know how a man could possibly be abused. And an idea like that is impossible. We also think men and women are equal, just not in this context of responsibility. So,
wow. Okay, so because all right,
and then on top of that, it goes further.
Okay,
Felicia was also previously put on leave. I have to phrase it in this way, for bringing up Kobe rape charges hours after he died, and that is, by the way, that point that he defended her on. So she's like, I get to bring up rape accusations against someone who just died while everyone's in mourning. That's fine. That's reasonable. But I believe in equality, except that she doesn't, because he doesn't get to have a joke about bi.
And again, it's a stupid. It's a stupid joke.
And so this goes to this new thing I think people are realizing, and this is just based off of how everyone's responding to this, and the fact that there's a split. There's a genuine split within the company, whereas everyone that would have disagreed with her in the past would have just shut up so that they're not next. That's not happening. You have readers saying, this is unfortunate. You have people in the company saying, this is unfortunate. You have the company itself not really making a quick decision like they would have. I think that this is a sign of the switch back. Now, what the sad thing is, and Lainey's talked about this before, and I completely agree, here's what happened. Like, if this is where we should be in terms of treating genders, and we were over here for so much time, we went like this. We're like, oh, the idea of Me Too comes up, and then we realize, oh no, it's all political, and it's all really against all. It's not really all women. It's some women. It's some women are more equal than others. Men aren't equal this or that. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have this. We went like, now we're going to be shooting way out in the other direction. I think we're going to go farther out than we were when we started. So, and that's the thing. It's like everyone's like acting like I was following the Johnny Depp stuff and the everything else like that.
Who wasn't at this point?
And it's like you listen to the newsrooms, you'd still think he was guilty if you listen to talking about it. But it's like it's going to change. And the problem is that the big thing that they're saying again is it is really like all the same at this point. It's the same energy that they're still like Johnny Depp winning this destroys women victims. No, it doesn't.
No.
You using women victims as a shield and then being found out as a liar hurts victims.
All victims.
Johnny Depp was a victim as found by a jury of his peers, the standard that these people all hold themselves to when these things happen, you are victim bashing and then claiming victims shouldn't come forward as you're bashing victims, making them not want to come forward. We are hitting the point of, I think, a reality correction. That's what I'm trying to say in this entire thing. And I think that this playing out, to me at least, validates the correction being made.
Okay, so
I think this is the furthest extent that the corruption of Me Too is going to go.
So,
maybe it'll go. There'll still be examples where it goes further, but I think that the cultural momentum is sadly going to go in a very negative direction in a few years.
Can't argue with it.
But it's how it was always going to happen when you're in a position where the people that are the biggest representatives, even though they haven't been voted into this, of what women want or deserve or what men want or deserve, become the people that are the most corrupt, everyone that's in the middle will not want to identify with them and disengage. Because I think at the end of the day, primordially, everyone wants to help women out when they need help and when they're not being treated fair. And I think the same goes with men. And it's the twisting of this that we've been seeing over the years. That, I've had issues even trying to talk about it at certain points because I don't know the words for some of this stuff, but I've gotten better. I've learned how to talk about it. I think America has as well. I think as America puts this into words and enough people realize at one time, which I think was the Amber Heard Johnny Depp case, that it's not black or white. It's very gray, and sometimes individually it's black or white, but we should let each side make their point before coming to judgment. I think that's positive. I just feel really bad because I think in a number of years, women are going to be at a disadvantage when the counter movement to this gains traction, especially when Republicans take office.
So it's hard to do a follow-up with everything what Daniel said because, again, these are real truths and the dangers of what Me Too has done, especially by ruining its own credibility, because there's a couple of live stream chats that I do want to read. But first, again, to your point about canceling people over jokes or suspending people over jokes, David Weigel apologized when he retweeted that thing. That wasn't good enough. So I have to say to anyone that wanted to cancel or fire, including you, Felicia, what would you want to be done to David Weigel? Would you want him shot in the street, hung by a rope, a cinder block thrown at his head? Because look, I'm not a fan of him or how he smeared Jimmy Dore or progressives or anyone else. But the thing is, he made a fucking apology. So he apologized. He apologized. That's the key word. He apologized. And he retweeted a stupid joke. Now, the thing is, hey, everyone, on Twitter, I'm pretty sure all of you have retweeted a stupid joke or said something stupid or whatever, okay? No one is perfect. I'm the world heavyweight champion that's screwing up a lot, okay? No one is perfect. And same thing, too, about canceling people for jokes. Look, Dave Chappelle, he's been put in the cancel culture so much. He's a funny comedian. And guess what? Comedians like Jimmy Dore, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Lee Camp, and so many others, the whole point about a comedian is to poke fun and show the hypocrisy in systems and in everyone. Everything is open for ridicule. I also want to bring up the thing with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. So the thing is, look, Johnny Depp, to your point, is a victim. A victim through and through because we've seen and heard the video evidence and the audio evidence about what he went through. And remember, she's recording there saying, who's going to believe you? And the thing is, there are a lot of victims, men, women, and children, young and old, who've all been victims of abuse. And I think it's important we hear all perspectives, but Amber Heard lied. And the thing is, all the media was around her, and she told a very good lie. But the thing I say in the show is you could tell a good lie, but eventually it crumbles apart. It cannot withstand. Its foundation is not strong. It's relying on toothpicks as its infrastructure.
And still, the mainstream media, which still pertains to be news when they're really just gossip called, it's crazy that TMZ is more on this a lot now than news is. Yeah. That the news is still asking, you saw when they talked to Johnny's lawyers, they weren't saying, oh my God, you won this really hard case that no one thought you would. They're like, how does this affect victims in the future that you won a case proving you were a victim?
I think here's the thing. Amber Heard lying and doing this has hurt so many victims. And I mean all victims, and not just women, men, children, of all ages.
And here's the other thing that goes to media, because we're waiting for when are they going to collapse as they are. This could be maybe a moment for it. Yeah. There's enough things happening together. Is that the media, many media companies have done such a job in the last few years thinking that this wave would last forever, and going on board with all these corrupted movements that they've taken over and using them to attack. They have, it's the same thing. It's NBC's oh, well, like, we don't have Trump supporters anymore. I don't understand why that is. What do we do? And then a lot of these publications are like, I don't get it. Why is this demographic not watching us? And so all they have is what I talked about before with extremism and how that ball gets formed, that right now the culture is going to leave this entire talking point. And one thing I'm going to say that you can quote me on when this happens is one of the most notable examples of this is the newsrooms are not going to get softer on this. They're going to get more extreme because they've already brought in all this new staff that thinks this way. They're all benefiting themselves. I don't know. They're like a group of people, like a cult. That's perfect. Yeah, they're acting like a cult, reinforcing each other on that notion. And they've already said that things have to be this way. Women must always be believed, even if they're not truthful. And if the guy happens to be truthful and the victim, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. He's bad anyway. Well, congratulations. You've done what we call backing yourself into a shrinking corner, where they are going to have fewer and fewer people that are going to watch them because they lose another battle. You notice, like, every time this happens, like, everyone's like, Trump would never get elected. Then he gets elected, and they lost a bunch of people. Things like that. And but now what's going to happen is it's going to just another layer of shedding. It's another ring will be shut. And so what will happen is the people that'll be left are going to be angrier, more filled with contempt, more willing to lie, and more extreme.
I want to bring up a YouTube super chat too before we end
And
the
fewer
segment,
of them.
because there's some things you probably want to respond to in the super chat.
Okay.
So we're continuing on with the segment because again, there's a lot to talk about and unpack here. Jennifer tipped $10. Agreed 100%. Daniel, the Depp verdict was a huge hit to the mainstream narratives. Even the apolitical masses are seeing through them now. And also, Mahmoud Muradi said this, tipped $5. Biden killed the Me Too movement long before Amber Heard. Just ask Tara Reid. I would say he opened the door for the
No,
end
I
of
think
the
there's a
Me Too
lot.
movement.
It's like these things are like a tsunami flooding inland. The water doesn't really deserve to be there, but when your house is flooded, it feels like it's never going to leave.
Yeah.
But then eventually it does leave, and you have to deal with the mold.
Yeah. I also want to add on to this story too. Look, this is why we need independent media, because corporate media has created this environment to where you have to be careful what you say and what you do. Who can you follow? Who can you not follow? Look at cancel culture as a whole. All right. Now look what's happening to David Weigel. I think it's wrong. But cancel culture has gone after people like Dave Chappelle, Jimmy Dore, Joe Rogan, Tulsi Gabbard, progressives, independents, Bill Burr, so many people, so many comedians, so many actors, actresses, people, who are leading activist groups, so much more. I mean, there comes a point to where you have to stand up against a neoliberal narrative. And outlets like the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, New York Times, ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, these corporate outlets for a long time have been spewing neoliberal poison into all of our minds. It's time to wake up. It's time to also look at the fact that these institutions like Me Too have failed people as a whole. And with what happened to David Weigel, and with also the further aftermath of the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial, we need to wake up to the fact that things are so wrong with our country. And we as people need to step up. So, Daniel, I want to give you the final word.
My final word is, at the end of the day, when all this is happening and something is changing in the culture war, people still aren't given $15 minimum wage. The Washington Post is not going to write that people should get $15 minimum wage. Not men nor women, just no one. They're not going to write that everyone should have health care. Not men, not women, no one. They're not going to write that people should have the right to home and housing in some capacity. Not men, not women, no one. This is why we do the show the way we do from the lens we do it. We are economic populists. Any story we do has to revolve somewhere around that topic. Because you can go to any different place. You can go to TYT if you want to learn about tea or about gossip. That's what they're there for. And they do some news sometimes too. But it's a moment of distraction that has happened that is negative towards everyone, that is now going to shift another direction. At the same time, the people that fought for those pointless trench warfare battles that injured so many are not going to change their stance at all on economic policy. You know, one thing that both David and Felicia agree on No one should get a $15 minimum wage. No one should get health care. No one should have housing. It is a distraction, but it is what a lot of people are looking at. And so therefore it does affect economic populism.
There you go. And what more else can we say? That this is why Heartlands Media, Chicago Corner, and so many other independent media networks exist.